difference between being nice and doing good. So the being nice is about how you carry yourself, and it's what I'm doing. And the doing good is that person there gets that outcome that they need. And if we don't finish the job, then we haven't really done good. We've maybe been nice. Doing good is about the person getting the outcome. Being nice is about how you carry yourself, like every day, in every possible kind of little interaction, and just what you do.
You're listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. I'm your host, Mike Campbell, and the aim of this podcast is pretty simple: to support you in building rock-solid foundations, legendary integrity, and kick-ass relationships, with plenty of stories, a load of lessons, and a solid dose of some loving straight talk. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Legends podcast. I'm your host here, Mike Campbell, and today I'm pumped to bring you a guest interview, conversation, it seems so formal as a conversation, with a gentleman who I met some time ago now, I think a couple of years ago, through a mutual friend. It was kind of like a, hey, you guys should chat, you'd get on really well type thing. We got on a call and we jammed, and it was really cool. And I've been following this guy ever since. I really like like the content that he shares, but more so I really like and enjoy and respect who he is, who he chooses to be, which is what comes out in how he shows up in social media in a simple sense, and the content that he shares and so on. His name is Josh Reid Jones, and he's the founder and really one of the major engines, I suppose, behind the Just Be Nice project. And in part, we spend a fair whack of this conversation exploring not just the Just Be Nice project, but this idea of being nice. We explore. I kind of put to Josh that, often that's a maybe an empty platitude, this idea of just be nice, like don't be a dick. Okay. And so Josh has this amazing take on that, which I absolutely loved, where he kind of talks about just being nice as a starting point, horrible end point, and what he explores in that you can hear in the episode. And then we kind of expand into, okay, well, as an organization, what do they do? How do they go about? And here's the key thing, and this is what I love, and I really want you guys to tune in to listen to. It's about impact. And this is one of the things that so many men want when we cut away all the shit, is we want to be able to live a life of impact, positive impact for ourselves, for the people we care about, and those around us. And so the things that Josh and Just Be Nice project do in organizations has all the carryover and application to us as individuals. So when you listen to this conversation, pay attention to impact, to purpose, to making a difference, to contribution, to being a useful human. You'll hear so much in this that you can take away from Josh in this conversation. Wonderful, intelligent, insightful, kind and generous dude, and it was a joy to have him on the podcast. I geeked out listening to a bunch of this stuff, but also really looking forward to you taking away what is in this for you. Now, as usual, you know what to do. This podcast is here to support more everyday men in moving past this shit, getting more from life, love, and the everyday. So please share this with someone that you think will benefit from it. Maybe not this episode, but the podcast in general. Click like, subscribe. My ask is do me a massive solid. Reviews make a huge difference in getting this in front of more people. So please head over to Apple, leave a review, give us a rating, 5 stars, but be honest, and share this with that one man that you think will benefit from it and like it. And now, into the show. Josh, welcome to the Everyday Legends podcast, mate. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much, mate. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, mate, it's usually the situation on these kind of things, right? Someone comes on the show and my audience might know you. They might not have a clue who you are. So I do want to kind of introduce you to the audience a little bit. And where I want to go with this question is a simple one. You can take it wherever the hell you want. And that's this: who the hell is Josh Reid Jones?
Look, just a bloke from Melbourne who's trying to make the world a bit of a better place. That's probably the nutshell version. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. And I know that about you. So when you say, trying to make the world a better place, what does that actually look like to you in your life?
Yeah, well, what a better world looks like for me, for a start, I suppose,
Mm,
is that uh, I've got pretty sophisticated view about it. I've spent a lot of time working on it, so it's at the very least, it's making sure that everyone is housed, that they're employed, that they have good mental health outcomes. And the reason that those outcomes were decided at the beginning is that it's sort of the base level sort of equality of opportunity for people
mhm,
to then be able to go and live into possibilities rather than being stuck somewhere and not having the support and infrastructure and opportunities around them to live really fulfilling lives that are meaningful to them. If we don't sort of finish the job of making sure that people have good, secure, stable, long-term housing and good jobs that are adequate and interesting and engaging for them, and that their mental health isn't taken care of, that they have community and good relationships, and
mm.
and that they're okay, then we sort of, everything else becomes a bit redundant if we don't take care of those things first. All the other bells and whistles don't mean a whole lot.
Mm.
And I do that through an organisation I started called the Just Be Nice Project, which is I think about eight years old or something. It's hard. I feel like we've gone in the time vortex. I should have double checked. I forget all the time. But
Fair enough.
that's what we do. We
Yeah.
work to help people to those outcomes and help remove barriers in communities to those outcomes.
Beautiful. And so when you said earlier on in there, the idea of a better world, at the beginning. So when you say at the beginning, that's implying the beginning of your thought process in exploring this idea, or the actual forming of this organization?
Yeah, that's a great question, mate. I think at the beginning for me is something that I have been considering since I was very little, like as long as I
Mm,
can remember. The question that I've always tried to solve is, why don't people get the help that they need when they need it, for as long as they need it, regardless of how they come to need help?
mm,
And trying to solve problems in a way that you can solve it for people in Melbourne, but you can solve it for people in Reykjavik or in Peru or in Tanzania or in Russia or in Azerbaijan or wherever.
mm,
And I think fundamentally it's about, you shouldn't be held back just by virtue of where you were born or how you came to
mm.
have a tough time or anything like that. The help should be there for you. The opportunities should be there for you. And we need to try and build a world where that's the case. And obviously at the moment, that's not how things sort of work. So that's,
Mm.
at the beginning was, what's going on with this? And then, okay, well, what's the most sort of practical, useful and complete way to sort of tackle that problem, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes sense in that it's a giant question to contemplate and
Mm-hmm.
undertake, right, and take on. So, can you actually take us back to that Josh who started contemplating that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in the space, when they talk about helping people, for instance,
Mm,
there's a lot of epiphanous moments. A lot of people
mm,
go, oh, this happened, or I
mm,
had this moment in my life. I've not had that moment. I don't remember a time when this wasn't what I was about. And
mm,
along the way, I sort of knew that if you want to have a big impact in any way, if you want to be able to contribute in any major way, you need to be very, very good at whatever you're doing. The better you
mm.
are at something, the more you're going to be able to contribute. So a doctor who gives better medical advice than I do because they're much better at that. That's what they do. So of course their
Yeah.
impact in that space is going to be astronomically more than mine can be. And while I haven't always had the framework to help people sort of sort it out in my head or anything like that, or operationally, I have always known that you should be really good at stuff. And that was kind of the start of the journey. It's like, well, whatever's in front of you, do a really good job of it, get really good at it. And then I like to describe it to people as like climbing the mountain. As you go up, you can see more, and you
Mm,
can't know what you can't see. So
mm.
all you can do when you're not sure is just keep getting better, and then things will open up to you. And
Yeah.
through the combination of experiences I've been fortunate enough to have and things I've been able to do, been able to put together a system and a framework and principles that work really, really well, that are dynamic, that adapt really well to different circumstances for individuals and people looking to help, and communities in different places and different kinds of challenges. And so the journey really looked like, this is the intention: help people. That's always been the intention. You've got to be really good. Let's get really good at stuff. Let's do this along the way. Let's work things out. And then once we've got a good answer, then let's get stuck in and execute on that answer.
Nice. So for you, what were you getting good at?
Mate, I've done a few things.
But I love this because, like, I think in a broad sense, who hasn't? A lot of people have, and that can, what I see for a lot of guys, we can struggle in that space. Like, I need to be an expert and a specialist in one thing at the age of 20 or 25 or even 30. It's like sometimes you really got to, do a bunch of things to see you're fit.
Yeah, mate, to be really good at stuff, it takes a lot of time. And you've got to be quite intentional about it. Just time into things doesn't always make you really good at things either. You can bump around, spending a lot of time doing things and not really getting very good at them. I sort of, growing up, I had a father who was a high potential person who would pick things up really well, clever guy, do things well. But prone to not finishing things, prone to dropping out, prone to, when it looked like a thing became a responsibility or an expectation, just dropping it because it's not exciting anymore to not be impressing everyone with how good you are at something or how easy you've picked it up. So I think for me, I really railed against that, the idea of wasted potential, the idea that I'm fortunate to have a bunch of aptitudes that I did nothing to earn. I was born with these aptitudes in a sense that if I don't make the most of them, then I'm sort of disrespecting people who didn't have that same aptitude, that same opportunity, because there's people who can't do this they can't run this far, they can't play footy this well, their memories aren't as good, they weren't given the opportunity to learn to read as young as I was. And so if I piss that up against the wall, I'm disrespecting everyone who didn't get that opportunity. So for me, I had to pick like picking things that make sense to me, that I could say, oh, not just me walking around going, oh yeah, I used to be good at that, or I could have done that. And so what was the marker for me was that I could be a professional, that someone would pay me to do the thing. That was like that's the objective marker that I'm pretty good at something. Maybe not the best, but at least good enough to be a professional. Yeah,
you're certainly earning something.
That's right. Yeah, someone thinks you're good enough at it to pay you.
There's an exchange of value. You're obviously putting in the value to get some remuneration back at the very least.
At the very least, and you're not the judge. You're not judging it yourself. Like, you're taking that element out of, like, there's an element obviously of like being able to audit your own behavior and improve on your own metrics, but there's also a lot of people like, oh yeah, I could do that, and you go, could you, pal? Like, really? Like, do it then.
Yeah, would someone pay you for it because they see the value in what you've got to offer?
Yeah, and I don't.
At the end of the day,
I don't think you should value yourself based on what people pay you and those sorts of things. But it was just really, for me, it's been a metric of like, if you put in the time towards being really good at something and you want some external feedback that you're good enough at, that you're actually good at it, or that you're better than a lay person or an amateur, then you're a professional and someone's paying you to do it. And so in that space, I'm a tradesman, I'm a carpenter by trade. I've been a professional musician. I've played football professionally. I've run a few businesses along the way, had a construction company, clothing company, run gyms, obviously the Just Be Nice project, and speaking and writing and doing these things and taking photos and all of these things that I've managed to be turned professional in at some point in time and do those things. And so, and then studying as well, which has also been something that I've thought is really important, both formal and informal studies, and trying to do well there as well, I guess.
And so would you say in part that determination to, I want to make a difference in some lives of people that don't have, support and systems and things that allow them to thrive? I'm doing my best to summarize it and hopefully not bastardize it. And therefore, how do I do that? I'm not sure. But look, if I get good at shit, then that's a good starting point, right? And so I've done a bunch of things like, wow. Somewhere in there clearly has entered this idea of Just Be Nice. So can you talk us through that? Because I have a little bit of an insight into what you do, but also I hear that term or terms like that, often used, like just be nice, don't be a dick, and they can be really simple, almost empty platitudes because it doesn't speak to like why people might be those ways. But this for you is a whole beast. So can you talk us through where that comes in?
Yeah, mate. Look, the truth is helping people is a complicated and difficult and long-term prospect. And and just be nice obviously does not cover everything you need to cover, but no single platitude does. Yeah. And the reason it's called Just Be Nice is because I wanted to start with something that everyone could do. Mm-hmm. The bare minimum, it's a starting point. It's not an end point. Just be nice as being the end point is a shit endpoint, to be honest. Like it's not enough. It's absolutely not enough. Like you can be friendly to a person who's sleeping rough, and that's wonderful. And you should be kind and friendly to people. You should be nice. But that's not enough. You can't be nice to someone and leave them languishing. We can't be nice and leave people in poverty and in dangerous circumstances and in harm's way and just be like, you're a lovely looking boy and have a great day and go, cool, we've done our bit.
I did my bit, pat myself on the back.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But as a thing, as a starting point, it's an excellent starting point because everybody can always be a little bit nicer. You can always audit yourself against, was every interaction I had today, was I being nice? Are they walking away feeling like that was a positive interaction? That was a good thing. And you could have non-verbal children be nicer. You can have old grumpy people be nicer. You and I could do a better job of it. There's no barrier to entry. And you get to decide what that looks like for you. So you get to decide what does a nice version of Mike look like? I'll try and be that. We fail. We fuck it up. We make mistakes. But if you've got it at least as a consideration, then you can audit yourself against that behavior. And people don't have that. Like people don't audit themselves against that as a starting point. Was I a bit of a dick then? People barely ever, they go, that person was, the service was shit, or this person was annoying, and so whatever, they deserved it. And that's different to going, I wasn't my best then, and I should do better. I should do better next time. Yeah. But our sort of stages of impact go, just be nice, be really good at something, then do good. And as you go up, it's like a pyramid. There's way less people who can do heaps of good because there's way less people that are really good. And then there are people, everyone can be nice. So you've got that base of the pyramid going to the top, and the people at the very top who can do the most good are the people who are really, really good at things and are nice and are intending to do good, and that's being executed well.
Yeah, I love it.
So I agree with the it's a bit of a
and I'm not saying that about what you guys do, but that's
100%.
a kind of thing that people throw about, and so I wanted to address it right because it could be like, okay, just be nice, sweet as.
Oh mate, you're 100% right. And
but I love this idea that it's a starting point, right? It's a horrible end point, but it is a starting point. And what I also hear in that is it's an invitation always.
Absolutely.
Right. And then as you went through there, right, like everyone can be nice. And then, there's always, if you choose, an invitation to become better at something, more competent. That doesn't mean everything. Maybe you might do a few things along the way, but there's always the option, I suppose, to specialize in something because you can make more impact, right? And then, 100%. You can do more good. And there's these two words that kind of, let's call it the top and the bottom of that pyramid there that speak to me a little bit. I often talk about nice guys. And I'll say nice guys aren't good men. There's these two words there. Oh shit, that can be a bit of a head fuck for some people. Yeah. But what is often happening at the crux of that nice guy element is the nicety with a motive, which is the recognition, the praise, the like me. There's something in return. And what I'm really hearing here at a foundation is, well, look, we all have the opportunity to be nice, but the intention behind it is so important. It's not to be seen as or to be recognized as, but to be a nice person, which really is, what I kind of equate to as good man, someone who's doing that, who's being this person for the sake of it and for what it can bring to others, which also always comes back to us in the sense of, like fulfillment and the sense of contribution and making a difference to people's lives and being helpful.
Mate, 100%. And it is important when we have these conversations that, some of those assumptions are brought up, because we could be talking, I could talk about a nice guy and what that means in this kind of context over here, and you talk about over here, and we're talking about different things, but we don't always have the sophistication of language where we've got the exact perfect words for all the kinds of people. And you're right, like there are those people that do that stuff. So for me, the way that, the difference between being nice and doing good, which is something I've written about and spoken about many times before, is that being nice is about how you carry yourself. What's being nice to you? What does the nicest version of you look like? What does being nice in interactions look like? Being considerate, being patient, paying attention, not yelling at people, not telling people off.
Being respectful, really.
That's right. But other people have different ideas. So I swear, for instance, and people go, it's not very nice to swear. And I go, well, that's what you think, but I don't care. Like, I think it's all right. And I get to choose what being nice is, right?
Yeah.
But doing good is not about me. It's about you, the person I'm trying to help. I haven't done good unless you're getting what you need. Doing good isn't about me doing what I feel like doing, because I can feel like doing something totally irrelevant that doesn't really help you at all. So the being nice is about how you carry yourself, and it's what I'm doing. And the doing good is that person there gets that outcome that they need. And if we don't finish the job, then we haven't really done good. We've maybe been nice because it's important for me to give this person this token of something that I think is nice. But they're still languishing there. They're still stuck. They're still not done. Job's not done. We haven't necessarily done good until they're better, And so that's how we sort of separate it out here. Doing good is about the person getting the outcome. Being nice is about how you carry yourself, like every day in every possible kind of little interaction and just what you're doing.
Nice. So correct me if I'm off. Something I'm kind of hearing in that is, like respect is a bit of a through line, but like the being nice is almost like it's kind of founded in self-respect, obviously for others, but it's like I want to act with self-respect, and therefore I'd be nice, and that will impact others. But the doing good really is about therefore the respect of others, like actually showing up with that intention, right? It's not about me, and so therefore it's kind of by nature the respect of others in the world around me, and all that encompasses.
Yeah, that's right. And being nice doesn't always mean not having difficult conversations, because there's plenty of opportunity. I mean, you would see it. There's plenty of times where a bit of tough love is the nice thing. You go, mate, I'm going to pull you up and we're going to have a difficult conversation.
Being nice is always coddling.
Nice. Yeah, that's right. It's not always about fluff. Being nice can be about the way that you hold yourself accountable to have difficult conversations that aren't pleasant, but ultimately are nice, because I'm doing you a favor, mate, by telling you this is not okay. And we can have a little Barney about it, but I'm still being nice. I'm still happy that I'm doing the right thing by being the nice person, by going, I'll have the difficult conversation. I'll put that difficult thing out there. I'll do that hard thing. It's not always just like, let's just applaud everyone.
Well, maybe that's also where those two terms come together. I might be offline here, but like being nice and doing good, like I'm going to be nice to do good for this person, that I respect, and so on, right? And so I could just be quote loyal to you and go along with this shit, but I'm actually going to be there for you and be honest and open and give you the respect that I think you can handle this and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm going to doing good by that person as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And those things all of that stuff is important, and people come to them. I think some people come to that kind of philosophy in different ways as well. This is just I've had to develop a system that sort of works from the bottom to the top and makes as much sense and is adaptable in as many different ways. But there are people who do this without knowing this particular model that describes it. Exactly.
But structure can help us, and however you get there, right? Okay, so then what does that now look like for you guys as an organization?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we're resourced, which is the question people ask all the time as well, is basically people or organizations go, we want to do good and we're not sure how, or we want to do good better. And we go in, we audit them. We basically say, don't tell us what you think you can do to help, because people's impact literacy, which is how we talk about people's ability to understand how to have a good impact, deliver good impact, and what it looks like, in the community and for people, is poor. It's very poor. It's been negatively affected by charitable advertising for the last 50 years and all these sorts of things.
Just give money to something that's a glaringly obvious in need of charity kind of thing.
Yeah, those sorts of things. And I can give you, I can run you through like some of the steps as to why that doesn't work very well. But you know, we go in and we say, don't guess. Tell us what you're really good at. Tell us what you're doing every day. And then we'll work out the best avenues for contribution, and then we'll manage that. And so then once you go into the pool of resources that we've got, we then utilize those in a series of interventions that, you know, for people or for communities that are in need. And that secures us access to resources for the long term, because we manage a relationship over the long term, which means it secures it for people in need. And for the organization, it means that we are having a two-way conversation about what's the best thing you can do to help people, and how do you do it in the best way for what you do every day, so that it benefits you in the best possible way. And
and there's an ease. You're not trying to step outside of your lane and get better at do something. It's like you just do more of that, right? As you said,
just do more of that. That's right. Do the thing you're good at, and let us tap into it in a way that isn't disruptive to your day-to-day and is a positive. Because at the end of the day, like if you run out of steam, or if you get overtaxed, you know, trying to do something, like you're going to stop. And it's better. Consistency is better than intensity. And that's not what we're taught all the time in this space, but consistency is much better than intensity. And so how do we do that? And in that process, we are exposing the partners to actual progress, how it looks, how good impact looks. And we're giving people the chance to get help for as long as they need it, when they need help.
Right. And so, you know, one of the things I'm hearing there is essentially, you know, like working with companies and organizations, et cetera. But I'm also hearing something that to me is speaking to, you know, like the individual, you know, how can I make an impact? And this is something I see in so many men that I work with, is often this desire to you know, it might come out as making impact, and maybe it will come out as, I think there's something better for me. You know, I've got there's something for me to do better in the world. And often this desire to kind of like have purpose and connect to purpose. And really, I think what that is also speaking to is this idea here of making impact in the world, and in your world, and potentially in the world of others. And so what I'm hearing is a great piece of relevance as well, is instead of trying to, you know, maybe go out into the world and find a bunch of things that might land for you, let's first of all just focus on, what are you really good at? Because you can make an impact, more of an impact, as you spoke earlier, where you are good at. Do you often see this in the individuals that you end up exploring and working with in organizations as well? Every day.
People are really, you know, there's a lot of chatter about wanting to have impact. You know, there's a lot of like, I don't feel like I've got any purpose. You've put all this time into developing a skill set or a profession, and no one's told you that helps. Because the telly is always telling you, just run a marathon, just have a gala dinner, just throw some bucks at something, you know, and you go, well, you know, what about me? And part of this is also,
and if your job is somewhere in a back office somewhere and you're on a computer and it doesn't feel like you're impacting something, right? It might, like, it feels soul destroying. That can be also hard. It can feel so removed from the end result, let's say.
So I'll run you through the lies, so that, because it makes the discussion easier. The reason that people have really poor impact literacy, one of the reasons is that the advertising in this space has been the same since television, and it's gone like this. Here's a huge problem. Here's a huge stat: 1 in 10, 200,000, 1 in 5, 1 a week, whatever, blah blah blah. Here's a picture. You know, Indigenous kids kicking footy in the desert, sick kid in hospital, homeless guy under a bridge. Here's the thing that we do. You know, it's this great thing that we do. Here, it's only $5, $1 a day, do a fundraiser, go for a walk, have a lunch, do a run, blah, 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 change someone's life forever. What that has taught people over the years, and you can run that over any charity advertising campaign. That is nearly verbatim how all of them work, right?
Yeah.
What that's taught people is there's a worse problem. You can tell by looking at someone. There's a best solution. It's cheap, easy, quick, do this one thing, and you'll have a huge impact, change someone's life forever. And all of that is wrong. Every bit of that is incorrect. There is no worse problem. There is no way to tell by looking at people. Some people you can, obviously, but like that's not even close to everybody.
Yeah.
$5 of impact does about $5 worth of impact. You know, there's no best solution. There's no single best solution that will save every person, or even likely to save a single person most of the time. And then changing someone's life is incredibly difficult, requires an outrageous amount of trust and infrastructure to actually move someone from a really challenging spot to being okay, and a lot of time. A lot of the time, it requires a lot of time. So everything that people expect is wrong. Everything that they are like positively incentivized to do is wrong. And every organization that's in the space is either explicitly or implicitly saying, we're better than the other place because you should give us the money instead of them, or you should give us the time instead of them. And so to do that as well, there's this element of like, we've got to reinforce you, Mike, as being, yeah, you get it. Like, you know what's up. You know what it would be like to not have, you know, to be sad on that day and not have someone to call. And you go, yeah, actually, that'd be a thing. And so then they go, so people have been positively reinforced on top of learning the wrong things, that they know how to help people.
Yeah.
Helping people is a skill.
And one of those things, clearly just being throwing a bit of money at it.
Yeah, that's right. And or time, or just like a transaction. So it can be doing a fun run. It can be going to the lunch. It can be going and making sandwiches for a day. Like, it's a transaction.
Yeah,
It's not a relationship.
Push-ups on the internet.
Yeah, that's right. It's a, you know, bucket of water, whatever. And obviously money is important, you know, and things are important, but we're not, what is winning in that space is intensity. And that is the wrong way to go about trying to help people. And then it's novelty, and novelty is the wrong way to go about helping people. These things don't help people that really need help. And then we look at all the buzzwordy things. Oh, we're going to innovate. We're going to do this. Does this scale? You know, all this kind of tech shit that has made its way into social impact. And I say to people, you know, you've got a young child. From the day that your child was born till the day that they turn 20, takes 20 years for every child everywhere. There is no hack. There is no app. There is no shortcut. There is no scalable impact thing that can make that any quicker. So when we constantly promote impacts, support, interventions that go for a week, a day, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we are leaving 19 years and 40 weeks on the table there for this person who's growing up somewhere that, or in a circumstance that's not ideal, to being a fully functioning, independent, fully grown 20-year-old. You can't skip that. You cannot skip the 20 years. That it takes 20 years. And no one has a 20-year horizon. It doesn't exist really in this space. So when people want to help, they're always funneled into these things and incentivized in that way. And the downside is that the ads are always telling you.
It's such a big expectation as well.
Oh, massive.
Right?
And that's what I'm
getting at. So I give money or I create something like this. You know, that's a hard place to find yourself wandering lost, going, how do I make impact?
Well, it's particularly when you've been told that, you know, this little thing has a huge impact. Do this thing and then you'll be fine. And then you find yourself with someone struggling in a circumstance. You do the thing you've been told and you realize it's inadequate. And then you start trying to work out what else to do, because you're like, I know how to help people. I've been told for years I know how to help people.
Yeah.
And you don't. And you don't, because it's a skill. It's like, you don't know how to treat cancer. You don't know how to fix a broken bone. You probably don't know how to build a house unless that's what you know and that's what you do. And if you think helping someone who has had substance abuse issues and is, you know, been neglected and has the, you know, maybe generational disadvantage, lives in an area with low social mobility and poor education outcomes and, you know, poor infrastructure, and you think that helping them is less complicated than open heart surgery, you don't know what you're talking about. It is at least that hard. But also, an open heart surgeon can't do that job in a field, can't do that job on their own, needs billions of dollars of hospital infrastructure, needs a team of auxiliary staff members doing their bit, needs all of the equipment, needs billions of dollars of educational infrastructure behind them, research infrastructure, drug research and development. And all of that comes together in a place where someone coordinates all of these moving parts, from the people who clean the sheets and make the food, to the nurses that look after you in surgery, to the nurses that look after you in recovery, to the post-surgery recovery team that do your physical rehab and all that kind of stuff. The enormous complexity to just have your heart operated on And even the person who was at school the longest, which was the heart surgeon, might sort of be seen to be the pivotal point of that. And they are, because you need them there. Even that guy can't do heart surgery on his own. And that's what it looks like when you're helping people. And that's what we try to set up. It's like, Mike, you're excellent at this. No matter how excellent you are at this person needs a team of people, the right team at the right time, in the right order, or else the heart surgery will fail. And if we are trying to actually fix something instead of make an attempt at something, we need to make sure everyone's here. You're really important. The nurse is important. The building's important. The cleaning's important. The equipment's important. No one's more or less important, because you take any of them out and you can't do it. And because we haven't taught people that, they think they need to be the center of the help. And then the things that get like applause are big sounding goals.
Yeah.
So no one can say, I can't get on the internet tomorrow and be like, my friend Mike, he's having he's had COVID. We're a bit concerned about his heart. I'm going to operate tomorrow. And people go, amazing, amazing. You're such a good guy. That's so great. Oh my God, you're inspirational. No one will say that. They'll be like, you're an idiot, Josh. What are you talking about? Don't operate on Mike. But if I said, I walked past a homeless guy today, oh my God, I'm so sad, I'm starting a thing, people are like, oh my God, amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Whether I've paid attention to a homeless person in my life, whether I've got any idea what's going on, whether I've even spoken to them, irrelevant. And because of that, we realize, oh, actually, if I just state a huge thing, if I just make a big announcement, I'll get as much applause as as much applause as the heart doctor without all the effort of going to school.
Yeah.
And so we positively incentivize that all the time. And that is why I think people get stuck, because they want to have impact and they think what they see is huge goal impact. They think that they can do something and it will have a huge impact straight away. So I'm just going to do it. None of that's true. And then they start to get frustrated with the feelings of not being able to have a big impact. But you would know in particular, it is not easier to help 1 million people than it is to help one. It goes 1, 2, 10, 150, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, not 1 million, 100,000, 10,000, 5,000, 1. It doesn't go backwards.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been doing it, if you don't do 1, if you can't get 1 to the end, you can't get 1 million to the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't teach people that. And it leaves people who need help hanging, and it leaves people who want to help feeling frustrated with their lack of impact. And we can do better than that. And that's what we try and do, obviously, at JPN.
I love it. Thank you for that, mate. And this idea of like, I need to change the world. You're like, what an expectation to take on and then continue to kind of place on yourself. And, I often talk about, like, it doesn't need to change the world, but you get to, first of all, impact your world. And that's where you can start. If I'm working here, that certainly gives me the opportunity to, start with 1, which can be myself, and then another, right? And that can be the world for someone as well, right? But it doesn't have to be the world, speaking to the million or that giant expectation. That's right.
And depth matters. One person that you took from 0 to 20 years old, that's massive. That's huge.
Yeah.
It's actually not that hard to get a hand on 1 million people for a couple of minutes. In fact, you could just pay for an ad to get out on all the platforms, and you could get a 15-second hand on YouTube on 1 million people. No worries. Like, you can just do that. But the effort it takes to raise a child, to support a family member or friend, to elevate someone from a position to where they want to be and provide that support. I mean, even in that circumstance, even if you had the skills to deliver it, if the rest of the infrastructure isn't around you to provide assistance, you're still going to struggle to do that. And we need to fill those gaps. The human help, the people caring, need to be supported by the logistics of all the things they need, all the opportunities, all the resources, all the material assistance to make sure that people can get from where they are to where they want to be. And that is not how help looks at the moment. And trying to help people by providing the infrastructure in whatever way, whether it's the human help that someone needs because they've got all the other stuff at hand, but poor relationships and no one around keeping an eye on them, or whether it's all the stuff you need because you've got people who care around you who don't who don't have the tools, the skills, and material access to the things you need to get where you need to go. We're here to fill that gap either way. And it looks different for different people, and it looks different in different places. But we don't look at illness and go, it's too big of a problem, don't bother. We understand that there are specialists in different kinds of illnesses, and we have different kinds of drugs, and we have different kinds of pathways for people, and we do that. And that is the intention at JBN, is to treat these challenges around being able to be housed, being able to have good employment and health outcomes, education outcomes, and good mental health and community outcomes, and treat them the same way. Put the right people in at the right time with the right things, and make sure that someone is taking responsibility for the people that need help getting better. And at the moment, as wild as that sounds, there isn't another organization in the world that even attempts to do that.
Yeah, wow.
And it sounds so silly. I feel so silly. I'm just a guy in Melbourne who's been doing this his whole life. But how is it possible I'm the only person that has put together this thing? It makes no sense unless you sort of know the background of how people come to not really understand why we are where we are.
Yeah, and so some systems are so ingrained and entrenched that they just be what they are. Which, you know, a great flag to that might be the classic, as you said, charity ad. So maybe you've thought about this. I'm interested to go there then. What is an effective, quote, charity ad, do you think? How do we go about this from an individual level, if we want to at least get people engaged, let's say, in their community?
That's it, mate. That's a great question. Charity ads are almost universally terrible by virtue of the fact that it's very difficult to take sophisticated problems and break them into 15-second, 30
and it seems to play, like the people outside the train station, these things, it almost feels like there's a level of playing on people's guilt a little bit. Like, I should be a better person. I should do some stuff so I can throw some cash at that, and it takes it away for a little bit. But almost it's like a balm as well. Like, we'll get you next time, or you sign up, and then the balm you can keep reapplying every time the money comes out of your account.
100%. Yeah. It's a little bit of, back in the day, when the Catholic Church was sort of running the joint, and they had these things called papal indulgences. And it was one of the things that Martin Luther, who's sort of started the Protestant Reformation, sort of railed against when he actually read the Bible. The papal indulgence was the church would walk around and they'd say, "Oh, have you done a sin recently?" And you'd be like, "Oh, I've probably done a couple of little sins." Like, well, for 50 cents, you can have a little sin absolved. But if you've done a big sin, that's $100 sin or $1,000 sin. The bigger the sin, the more you got to pay, and then you get off from your sin. Like, the most ridiculous, blatant, cash-raising, disgusting sort of activity.
Yeah, oh man, it is disgusting. What a word for that, right? Preying on people's shame and guilt. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Catholic Church's MO in a lot of respects.
Because of course, if you don't do this, remember hell just down the road there. Yeah. Wow.
And Martin Luther reads the Bible and goes, "That's not a thing." But it's really these things set up these cultural sort of follow-throughs all the way through, that people are used to absolving their sins by throwing a bit of cash at it.
Yeah.
And then, but for people, it sounds so trite to say, look after the people around you, because it's like, but some people go, no one around me needs help. And I go, but then you don't know enough to help other people, because someone around you needs help.
Absolutely.
They're going to need help, and you should be there for it.
Yeah.
It
doesn't matter, all of those things. It might not be a homeless person or the person who doesn't have the infrastructure, all those stuff that you're speaking to, but everyone's got shit. Everyone has challenges, and there's actually, we all need support, right? The very nature of humanness is to be in community with others and be part of this ecosystem that supports and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%. So start there, because one, it's close to home. An element of good help that never gets talked about is that trust is incredibly important. You talk to someone you don't trust, you could give them the best advice in the world, they probably won't listen to you because they don't trust you. They don't know you. They don't care. Exactly. Yeah. One of the reasons that that medicine works, and I mean, we've probably seen this knocked a little bit in people sort of poking at it. Like, the damage is poking at the trust. The science hasn't changed in the last 2 years, but trust has been stabbed repeatedly. And so people are like, I just don't know. And you can see what a huge difference a lack of trust makes, whether it's in a system or an institution or an individual. So you've already got that with the people that you're close to, hopefully. So you've overcome this massive hurdle. You can't just walk up to a person who's struggling and go, hey, here's my sage advice. They don't know you. They don't know where you've come from. And then they go, oh, I'm better. Amazing. Thanks so much. It doesn't work like that. You've got to build trust with those people. So even if you want to start helping someone, the first step is build the trust. And for people that you know, hopefully you've already got it. So you start there. And then as you help people, and your intention is to help them until they get to an outcome, not until you're tired or you feel like you've done enough or whatever, you'll realize they're going to stumble, they're going to fall, they're going to go backwards. There's going to be things missing. There's going to be gaps. There's going to be challenges. And you go, geez, it's that hard. It's hard to help people. It's hard to take someone from a really bad situation to a really good one. And then realize that's how hard it is for everyone that needs help. And unless the system you're supporting or advocating for is prepared for that and has the intention of engaging with that level of complexity and time and consistency, don't advocate for better, support better. And you can only know that if you've tried to help people. So start close to home. And then while you're doing that, and if you can't see anything, get really good at something. Just keep getting really good at it, because if the scale of goodness at something, skill, aptitude is 1 to 10, a 10 is more useful than 100 ones. You can see things they can't see. You can teach ones. You can make decisions quickly that they don't know about. You are not just 10 times better than a 1. You're 1,000 million times better than a 1. So keep going up, and don't confuse short-term passion or emotional state with care. It's easy to get wound up. It's easy to feel emotional. It's hard to grind at something consistently until you're really good at it. And that includes helping. If you really care about helping, settle in for the long haul, and settle in for the frustration, and for no back pats, and for no one giving a shit, and for the frustration, and for stumbles and falls and backwards and forwards. And once you're ready for that, once you're prepared, that's the deal. Then you can start to look at maybe doing something else. But until you've done that, or just call JBN and we'll help you. We'll find some spots for you. But
I love it. Yeah, but also what that speaks to, again, is regardless of what you do for your job, let's say, or where your skills lie, things that you happen to have, improved and become good at over the time, there is always purpose to be found in those things, because the better I become, the more I can potentially do and place the impact in different places. Yeah. Even if it is, let's just say, as a cliche, quote, bean counter, there's avenues everywhere. There's purpose in becoming more competent at things for yourself, but also where that impact can maybe fall. And what also comes to mind from what you're saying there is a story literally in the last podcast episode I did, where Nick was talking about, his local footy club. He made it to becoming a professional footballer. Why? Many reasons. But at the very, very core of it was Barry and Pat down at the local football club, who turned up every week, and they did these things, and they did this thing, and they set up this thing. And he goes, there's a lot to it, but I would never have got to where I was if it wasn't for Barry and Pat. And he didn't have all this money and all this stuff, he lived in a housing commission, but he did this thing that he was very good at, that he loved, and that it impacted all these children. And I'm not me without Barry and Pat. And, Barry and Pat doesn't get the pats on the back, as you said, right? They don't get that. Well, they do maybe later in life, but they do it because there's something in it for them. This being of use, being of service to the community. And to me, it just opens up this whole world of what is possible for us and where we can make an impact. Maybe you're really fucking good at cooking barbecues, get down and cook a barbecue for people at the football club, whatever it is.
100%. And I love that story. I love that story from Nick, because one of the exercises I give people to do when we talk about this, to try and understand where I'm coming from a JBN point of view, is I go, tell the story of your life without taking any credit for the good stuff that's happened. Attribute everything to your environment, everything to luck. I have a similar story about footy. I was lucky that when I was a junior footballer, our footy club was only two and a bit blocks away. Nothing to do with me. We lived in a house that was, we had, it was owned by a couple of, a pastor and his wife, and we'd used to live next door, and we'd had, challenges in our family. There's, violence and drugs and alcohol abuse and all those kinds of wonderful things. We're always struggling for cash. There was no cash, and they said, listen, live here for cheap. That's fine. And they were amazing. They let mum live there for like 20 years for like $150 a week rent or something. It was ridiculous. You know, it was amazing. It was like, that's a blessing. Nothing to do with me. God, I don't know what, you know, that consistency, you don't get that in housing commissions. You don't get that anywhere else. We were just lucky. They went to live at the church. We're not even church people. We didn't even go to church. I'm not a religious person, you know. I was a bigger kid. I had my growth spurt a little bit early. Nothing to do with me, just lucky. Single mum, 3 kids. If that footy club wasn't within walking distance, I couldn't play footy. If I don't play footy, a million things don't happen. You make a million relationships. You have a million little wins that make you feel good. You get all of this sense of accomplishment. And I can't take credit for that because it was luck that it was there. And the kicker is that footy club isn't there anymore. So if some kid is in the same circumstance, living in the same street, they can't walk to that club anymore. They miss out on all the things that I got to have. When we prescribe help constantly about what you, Mike, need to do for you, because I only can reflect on my own life about, well, I went to training, I did the hard work, I did the extra laps, I did this, I did this. So my advice is going to be, you do this, you do the extra laps, you do this thing. And when we're constantly giving people advice like that, it's easy to write people off as not doing the right things. It's easy to write people off as not caring enough, not trying enough. But really, if you want to help people, you've got to create environments where these things are possible instead of putting it on individuals all the time. And one of the reasons,
by the bootstraps, right?
Yeah, you're not. No one's picking them. There is no self-made person. There is no bootstrap person.
The self is crucial, but in part of that ecosystem.
That's right. And if you want to go through life and attribute all your success to yourself, that's fine. But don't try and help people because you've got no idea. Yeah. There is no just helping.
It'll be a very simple vanilla message.
Yeah, just do this. I'll just have a gratitude journal. Just to do more training. But when you pay attention to all of, like Nick, is going to be looking around going, how do we get more Barry and Pats?
Yeah,
because I know it's how important there's a Barry and Pat. Like that's because people who pay attention to the things around them that help understand. Fuck, it's not all me. It's absolutely not all me. How do we have more Barry and Pats? How do I support Barry and Pat, who are now not so mobile because they're older, to get to the club because it's worth it? You know, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pick them up, drop them off, or I'm going to organize the bus, or I'm just going to pay the taxi each week because it matters. Without Barry and Pat, there's no Nick. And it's the same sort of thing. You go, that footy club should be there, but not just the footy club. You should be able to play footy and soccer and basketball and dance and paint and sing and act and whatever makes the best possible opportunities for people. We should try and have them everywhere for everybody all the time. Instead of saying, if you want to make something of yourself, you need to do all of these things. Yeah. And so if you can pay attention to the environment, you can create a better one. And that is how you create better people, not just telling people. Obviously, we can take for granted Nick worked his ass off. You worked your ass off. I've worked my ass off. But to take all the credit is disingenuous, and that doesn't lead to good outcomes for help for people. Yeah,
it's a bit naive as well, really. So what do you see happens then when you take people through this exercise?
I mean, a lot of the time you get this kind of like, wow, that makes so much sense. You know, like, how is that not what happens?
And what about in terms of where they reflect on their life? So they start to kind of see different things?
It's very difficult if you've never done it.
Yeah,
that's another challenge. It's hard to backwards because your memory is hazy. You've only got flags planted. So the example I always give, I live near a big park in Melbourne. It's called Albert Park. There's lots of trees. So if we go for a walk, you'll remember that we walked past heaps of trees. You'll be like, yeah, Albert Park, they got the trees, right? I'm not a plant person. I don't know much about plants at all. But if you walk with someone who goes, oh, that's an oak tree. I don't even know if there's an oak tree, but that's an oak tree. And you look at it and you go, oh, it's an oak tree. And they go, yeah, like you can see the leaf shape. It's really good being near water. This sandy soil is really good or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And you go, okay. So now you see trees plus oak trees. You can spot the oak trees. Because you learned about it, because your attention was drawn to it, because you've been taught about it. Then you might learn about palm trees and gum trees and different gum trees and whatever. So your walk the first time was just trees, but by 10 years later, you're like, oh, there's these gum trees and there's these shrubs, And then you learn how they work near each other and what that might mean about the soil and why, you can tell whether they're healthy or not. Now, I could take you around Albert Park one time and then you could spend your life learning about trees. And if I said, reflect on the trees in Albert Park, because you didn't know at the time how to recognize, you can't remember what the trees are. You can't go back and insert into your brain, there's oaks and there's palms. Maybe you remember the palms because they're pretty stand out down there. But like, I don't remember that. I can't remember if they were eucalyptus trees. You didn't know at the time to recognize them. And it's very difficult to recognize them in your old memory, which is why it's so important to teach people from a young age and at the beginning and constantly show them, these are things that are happening that you're not responsible for, that you're the beneficiary of, which is great. And we want you to be the beneficiary of it. You are still doing the work, absolutely, but here's some things that aren't. And then you can reflect back and go, oh yeah, I wasn't responsible for that. Because, they're oak tree, they're the big oak tree at Albert Park, I remember, because it was pointed out to you. So it's important that we point it out to people, because otherwise we've got to sort of go through step by step and go, actually, this tree is in Albert Park. You kind of vaguely remember the scene. This one's an oak. And you go, of course, there is a massive oak tree there.
Yeah.
And in practice, that looks like saying things like, your parents were literate. And they go, yeah. You go, not everyone has literate parents. Not everyone has books in their house. Not everyone gets taught to read before they get to school. And they go, oh. And you go, yeah. Oh, like, so you start at 5 miles ahead of this kid at 5. And they go, oh, okay. If I just said, think about the stuff that you had that other people don't have, you don't know what you don't know. You go, I don't know. I didn't have a Game Boy when I was a kid and Pete did. Mate, you had books in your house. Oh yeah, your mum was an accountant and your dad was a lawyer. So you knew
it's
what
easy.
an accountant
It's easy
and
to
a
see
lawyer
perhaps
was.
what we didn't have, because there's, as you say, there's often memories attached to those things.
Yeah,
right?
everyone remembers the opportunities they didn't have. People rarely remember the opportunities they did have.
Yeah, and I think that's the word that I'm getting through all of that. As you say, even if you're pointing things out to a child now, simply to allow them to see the opportunities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that's also something that's clearly coming through with what you're, doing in general, is this kind of equality of opportunity. And
planting those flags, because
seeing a different perspective, right?
And being if you plant the flags, you can go back and reflect better. Like when I was a turd, when I was a teenager, punching on at home with your parents and whatever, and they say things to you, and you go, "You're an idiot. That's wrong. Get stuffed." Rah rah. And then you get older and you reflect back and you go, and I've done this before. I've done this with my mum, and I said, "Look, I'm sorry. I said that was wrong, and no, you're clueless. You got no idea." And you were right. That was the case, and this is what's happened. And so I apologize for saying you've got no idea. At the time, I didn't know. If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have reflected on our argument later and gone, like 10 years later, and gone, "Oh, actually, you were right." But because you planted that flag and I remembered it, I could come back to that as an adult. And so, not demanding that everyone understands it. You can point this stuff out and then go, okay, you're not going to get it right now. You need a bit of perspective. But one day you'll have that perspective, and I've pointed out that tree to you, and you'll go, oh, okay, it's relevant now. I get it. I can associate it with more stuff, and now I get it. But if I don't do it now, you won't be able to remember backwards. So it's not always about having people understand 100% the moment you tell them. Sometimes it's just about dropping those flags into people's consciousness so they can go, oh yeah, okay, cool. That's a thing later on. But again, it takes a patience. It takes a 20-year outlook. It takes not having to win.
There's a long-term view here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which brings me to the thing we're at the time that I want to kind of close up on is, one word that is also present, I feel, in a lot of what you do explore, maybe come up against, have to deal with, is this idea of infrastructure. Yeah. And that would lead you, I imagine, into many opportunities, and I imagine also challenges and frustrations. And also where I think I'm going with this is, of late, I see you talking a fair bit in let's say, the realm of politics, which tends to often have control of a lot of infrastructure. So I imagine you have ways of going about things, but more so what I want to ask you is, speaking politically and being nice and helping people and making a big fucking difference and all these things, like, is that actually something that you have even entertained the idea of exploring yourself? Like, maybe we get in and steer the ship.
Politics. Yeah. I mean, people ask me a bit about that. I don't have any intention to do anything, politically. It's
Why? You don't have to answer this, but I'm super interested because me neither.
Yeah.
Right. And therein lies this thing that we're presented with, right?
Yeah. And it's not a complacency or sort of throw my hands up in the air and go, it's all hopeless. But I think that the constraints of attempting a political life, fully political life like that. Obviously, if you care about people, if you do the work I do, if you work in these spaces, and I work on boards and work in communities, do all these kinds of things. You've got a political life because it matters so much. Like you said, they're so incredibly important. But I feel like I can do better not as a politician right now. But I have always done what I think is my best possible opportunity to help people. And that may change. That could change in the future in a million different ways. Sometimes opportunities present themselves and you go, actually, this is the best way to do it for me right now. And most of the time, I've been ruthless at making the most difficult decisions and having the most difficulty in my life by virtue of the fact that I've gone, this looks easier and nice. I love a regular paycheck. I'd love this stuff to be happening regularly. I'd love to not have to bash my head against a brick wall helping people all the time. But that's exactly why people need some people to do that hard work. And I'll keep doing that. So, I'm not old. In 20 years, it might be the case where the system is such that you could do more if you become a politician, and I might be in a situation where that makes sense. But one of my favorite quotes is, anyone who wants to be a politician should automatically be banned from being one. I love it so much. I'm like, 100%, like it's like...
Right. But then therefore, when it comes to your work, because I hear that and I love it and I honor it, do you therefore find yourself coming up against the limitations in that system and so on?
Yeah, massively, all the time. And half the battle there is just the political system is run on sentiment in the same way that fundraising is. The sentiment, how do we change the sentiment of people to have the same aspirations for people they don't know and don't ostensibly care heaps about? How do we have them have the same aspirations for people that they don't know as for people they care about the very most in the whole world? How do I help Mike see that whatever he wants for his daughter or his son or his mum or his cousin or his wife is the same thing for the person on the other side of the country, other side of the world? Same level of education, same level of healthcare, same food on the table, same amount of love and support in their life. The first step is getting everyone to have that same aspiration, which unfortunately we don't have. And then push the political will through that aspiration so that we reward people who go, everyone deserves this. Let's get on with it. And we don't have that. That's not a discourse that happens in the country. So, I mean, my message would probably be a bit lost even if I did try and run, because not everyone cares. They'll be like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I suppose any message is going to get lost because, of course, not everyone agrees about the same things, right?
Of course.
Yeah. But therein lies a big part of the challenge. But mate, that's why one of the reasons I absolutely love, what you do and how you guys go about it. It intrigues me massively. And, I love this idea of impact, but also how you go about it and the way in which it can, in a simple sense, both apply to an organization and an individual. And the pyramid of be nice, be great at something, and then, do good is wonderfully simple and I think hugely powerful. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate you letting me just natter away here. I've probably talked a bit too much today, so my apologies to anyone who's got to the end. I appreciate the TED talk.
That's what you're here for, mate. So look, I'll share links and all that kind of stuff, but if people want to find you and find out about you, what can they explore?
Yeah, mate. Josh Reid Jones. It's REID. I think it's that on most of the things. JPNproject.com is the Just Be Nice Project webpage. DMs are open and I'm around. So if there's...
And is there expansion, in terms of location and where you guys operate?
Yeah, do stuff all over the country and actually do stuff internationally as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so just whatever we can do. We're also pretty honest about when we can't do something as well. But
of course,
usually there's stuff that people can do. And look, bringing people along the journey and helping people, get better at helping people. That's however we can do that, we're always up for it.
I love it. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. You bloody legend.
Mate, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Cheers. Cheers, mate. You've been listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. If this podcast has benefited you, if you enjoyed this, then my invitation is to share this with a man that you think will also benefit from this and enjoy this. Remember, please, wherever you find your podcast, to like us, subscribe to us, click download first, leave us a review. All those things both make sure you get all the updates when they come in, and it supports us in getting this podcast in front of more everyday men that could use it. Until next time, I've been Mike Campbell. Remember to build that legendary integrity. And remember, everyday men, we thrive when we are championed, when we are supported, when we are appreciated and recognized for who we choose to be in the world. Here is my invitation to both show up and be that everyday legend, and to continue to champion the everyday men in your life.